Looking to make the rest of your life the best part of your life? Every week, the Words for Life podcast has principles and testimonies that will help us become a little better than we were yesterday. This will positively impact your life. Welcome to another Words for Life discussion. I'm your host, Terrence Farrell, aka T Farrell, and I'm just so glad that you're here with us this week. Got a great episode, what I think is going to be a great episode this week. Actually brought back Gregory Vilfranc. 2 weeks ago, he was here. We were talking about mental health, and this is kind of like mental health part 2, because when I was done, I'm putting everything together, and I was like, oh man, I forgot to ask like how he actually got through it. And so to give some handles so that people struggling or people that know people that are struggling can have an idea, not of what to do. This is not, hey, listen to us, here's what to do, but what he went through, and hopefully that will spark some things. So before we even get into that, wanted to share something. It's a principle that I use, that I made a part of my life, and it's about discipline. I always find myself looking to have more discipline. And I heard Inky Johnson, he gave a definition that stuck with me. I wrote it down. It says, discipline is sticking to, let me say it again. Discipline is sticking to the plan after the excitement the plan generated is gone. I'll say it one more time. Discipline is sticking to the plan after the excitement the plan generated is gone. There's so many times I go, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to work out. Then I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read a book a week or a book a month, this and that. And then somewhere in the middle, it's like, I'm all excited. I hit the first couple days, and then it's like, yeah, you know what? This needs to get done, and the excitement goes. But discipline is sticking to it, even when the excitement starts to dwindle. Because as we all know, when you have discipline, at the end of it all, you go, man, I'm so glad I stuck with that. Man, I'm so glad I put in the time. And so I just wanted to. That's a definition that I thought was key that I wanted to share. Hopefully, that does something for you. I'm going to say it one more time, just in case you want to write it down. Discipline is sticking to the plan after the excitement the plan generated is gone. Think about that and strive, just like I strive all the time, to have more discipline. And I know it will reap benefits for you, or give you the benefits that you're looking for. Discipline is always a good thing. So now back to this week. This week, G and I like to call him G, Gregory Vilfranc, I call him G. We're going to continue the conversation about mental health. So without further, well, you know what? Before I introduce him, just in case you didn't listen 2 weeks ago, I'm going to give a little intro, let you know who G is, just in case you go, I don't know who he is. He's a husband and father of 3 children. He loves the music making process, especially as it relates to film, TV, audiobooks, podcasts, and video games. His compositions have been featured on major networks like VH1, Oxygen, MTV, just to name a few. He's also received placements in several popular reality shows, such as Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Love and Hip Hop, Preachers of LA, and many others. To me, he's just a good dude. Like, we started working together. When he first started out, he would come and go, Terrence, can you show me this? Can you show me that? And it was nothing but love. And then he like got on a track that, I'm on a different track, but he just started blowing up. And I'm just so happy for him. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, help me welcome Gregory Vilfranc. G, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother Terrence. Thank you for man, you got the Steve Harvey intros, man. You bring us in.
It's all true, man. It's all true.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So 2 weeks ago, you were sharing about your past, about how family situations brought upon anxiety and depression. And I wanted to ask, what are some of the things that helped you or still helps you stay mentally healthy today?
Some of the more concrete things is I know we were catching up. We first of all we hadn't talked in a while, so just
Yeah, yeah.
y'all listening, that was like more of a catch up. We kind of doubled up on that, but to be a little more concrete, some of the things that help. Um, this is gonna be silly, but video games, and I don't say it just to be video games. It could be anything, but disconnecting from the thing that you're doing,
Mm,
taking what some of my mentors in the past, mixers and composers, all told me take frequent breaks. So that's another thing that I think is key. When we think about micro steps, I don't know if we got into this last time, T,
no, we
but
didn't. We didn't.
micro steps is something huge that a lot of the gurus and the wealthy people that I listen to, their podcasts and that I follow, some of them that actually are mentoring me, they talk often about micro steps and how important it is to take tiny steps while giving yourself grace. Because when we pace ourselves, when we work and we think of things on a project oriented basis, and I think we kind of touched on that last time, that is really what helps me. And with any project, pulling away from the project, taking a 15-minute break here, a 5-minute break there, even if it's just leaving the studio, stepping outside of the studio, taking a deep breath, enjoying nature for like 5 minutes and hopping right back in. I've found that disconnecting is not just a part of my personality, because I disconnect from I like even my wife, she'll be like, okay, babe, go play a video game because you're snarling. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I disconnect. It's just a part of who I am. I need to disconnect from people, things, even things that I'm looking at so that I can preserve my mental construct, make any adjustments necessary, and come back and say, hey guys, I'm back. I just needed a minute. So taking frequent breaks is definitely a big, big thing for me. I do it really often.
Okay. Okay. Real good stuff. You talked about micro steps, and when you were talking about it, I just keep thinking of the people that say, well, you got to concentrate on your vision, and the vision is the big thing. And, I'm not looking at my micro steps. I'm looking at the vision, and hopefully my steps are adding up. And sometimes, I won't look away, and I'm just trudging on because I see the big vision.
Yeah.
How does vision play back into the whole micro steps?
That's so glad you said that, man. I'm one of those personality quiz type geeks. I took several personality quizzes, and there's one that I actually have myself and my teammates, we've all taken. It's called the brain type assessment. It's free to take, and my brain type is the Oracle. And the Oracle, as the name suggests, is a visionary. Like I see things. I've been like this since I was a child. Like I can foresee things, not foresee things. In the church, they call it the spirit of discernment, I guess, right? Everybody else calls it clairvoyance, whatever. But that's always been my gift, to sort of anticipate what might happen 2 days from now, a week from now. And with that gift, when I realized I wasn't crazy, with that gift, putting it into applications of my daily work is really about seeing the big picture. And this is a note to my guys. Gentlemen, vision boards are not just for ladies. Vision boards are key because when you constantly have something to look at, look towards, my vision board is somewhere here. And the reason why I can't show it now is because I think I've outgrown it and I probably have to make a new one. But having a vision board is super key because to see the thing that you're wanting to do and accomplish while you're working, there's something about the vision and how it attaches to the mental cortex and all of that scientific stuff that really sort of drives it home. Vision, so let's going back to the original question, vision can be overwhelming and daunting if you look at the big picture for too long. At some point, it's like when you first get a project, T, right? So somebody comes in and says, hey, I got these songs and I just need the mix. So they've already done all the music and they just need you to mix it. What is one of the first things you do? Like you just spend like maybe a day, you go through all the tracks and just listen like a fan and maybe like 10% engineer, right? You're just absorbing it. And I think that's what we should do with the big picture initially. We just kind of look back at it and take it in. And then eventually you have to start the work, and then you start piece by piece. And that's where the micro steps comes in. because man, if you just, it's like anybody who goes into a major recording studio for the first time. I remember my first time at SAE, I was overwhelmed when I first saw the SSL board for the first time. I lost it. And the teacher, the instructor anticipated that. So he says, guys, the problem with most of you is you guys look at the board and you get overwhelmed. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on one track at a time. Signal flow. And signal flow, you can apply that to your life too. You take one track at a time. You take one step at a time. You take one module at a time if it's your like in the medical field or whatever. So that having vision is great, but knowing when to another real quick story. That same brain type assessment, my wife is an explorer. And if you know anything about the art of war, like snipers always have a spotter. So the spotter's job is to not only make sure the sniper doesn't die, because the sniper's got their eye on the scope the whole time, right? The spotter's job is to make sure no, like a scorpion doesn't go up their pant leg. But it's as funny as that sounds, but it's also to make sure that anything in that's not in their peripheral vision, they've got it covered. Check for wind distance, check for all of that stuff. And my wife is my spotter, because while I see long, she sees wide. So she's like a wide camera lens, if you want to think of it that way. And what she does is when I get too much, get too caught up in the vision, she pulls me back and says, hey, you've been in that scope way too long. If you come out of the scope, you look down and there's a rock under your foot that you were about to trip over. So just so you know. So sometimes I think having accountability partners helps when it comes to vision, because the vision can get cloudy, or we can get infatuated by the vision where we're just like, oh, big picture. And then now we're in a trance. And then you need somebody to tap you on the shoulder. Hey, come on, man. Micro steps. Let's get back to work. We got a whole season ahead of us. That's why these NBA players don't really, championship is the goal.
Right.
But they're focused on micro steps. I promise you, they're focused on one game at a time.
No, that's key, especially accountability partners. I was searching for a couple of accountability partners myself, because it was like, I'm getting in, I'm doing this, and when I look back, I'm like, man, I could have used somebody to go, hey, T, didn't you say you was going to do this, or what about this? And just stuff you missed. Now, there was another thing from 2 weeks ago. You were sharing, and you shared some deep and personal things, and I wanted to know, how did you get over the stigma of being mentally unhealthy?
Man, that is such a touchy question, not just for our community, the African-American community, but just men in general. I find that there's this stigma of, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy, or they're going to think I'm this and I'm that. And all the images that, we sort of grew up seeing of crazy people were like people in straight jackets going around stabbing people, yelling at people, frothing at the mouth, all that stuff, foaming at the mouth. I mean, and, that can be furthest from the truth. A lot of people internalize their mental health. A lot of people are dying, crying, screaming inside, but on their surface, they're smiling like everything's great. Everything's wonderful. And I find for me, when I sort of got over that stigma, I'll be very honest, T, I've always been the odd man out. I've always been the oddball. So for me, not necessarily being the jock or the cutest guy growing up, I was not the most attractive person in my circles as a kid. So I kind of knew my lane early on. And I have this thing that I said all the time. And when I used to write poetry, I said I failed popularity contests on purpose, because for me it was like I was always kind of just poking holes at that whole game, like cliques and stuff. Like in high school, growing up in Brooklyn, you probably experienced this too. The lunchroom was like a microcosm of the world. You had the Koreans at one desk, got the blacks on another desk with like maybe 3-4 rows, because we playing spades. Just so y'all know, I don't know how to play spades. You had the Puerto Ricans on the other side. And for me though, bro, every lunch period, every day I sat at a different table. And people hated that, because they hated my freedom. They hated the fact that I was like Neo. I was an anomaly. I didn't fit in, and I was okay with that. Mind you, this was after the whole anxiety, panic attack every day, passing out because I'm hyperventilating all the time. This was after I had discovered my musical gift, and this was after my confidence. I found my confidence. At this point, I was literally brushing the haters off. It's like, nah, you can't. It doesn't matter what you say because, A, I've never subscribed to the bigger, stronger, faster, cutest guy. I've never been a part of that pool. So I was immune to those things. So when people say, "Oh, he's ugly," I was like, "You might be right. You just might be right." But I'm chilling though. I'm not worried about that. So
Right.
for me, if I were to give advice to anyone, any young man or young woman or anybody who is going through this stigma of peer pressure or just dealing with maybe family who does not accept where the conversation of mental health is taboo, I would say preserve your mental health at all costs. If you have to distance yourself from relatives, because let's be clear, relatives and family are two different things.
Right.
I got family that some of them I just found out that we're not cousins for real, you know. But that's just how close we were. But that would be my answer to that, would be to just be vigilant about taking care of your mental health. Some people, they'll get a call from their doctor and they'll switch their diet immediately. But very few people will reach out to a therapist or just reach out to another person and say, "Hey man, I just want to, if you can just not talk for just 5 minutes and just let me speak and just get this out, I'd really appreciate that." We all need that one friend who's just like willing to be a sounding board.
Right.
They don't have to pull out a pen and pad and take notes. Sometimes that's all we need.
No, that's true. I mean, and again, referencing 2 weeks ago when you was talking about like you've even opened up to clients and like, yo, I'm tired of like fronting like everything's okay. If you're gonna ask me if everything's okay, I'm gonna let you know, hey, this week I wasn't okay, or I'm not okay right now based on what's going on or the news or whatever. And I'm just thinking, man, I might lose a client or two. Like they might look at me like, you know what? I don't know if I should give this brother a mix. He might be off next week and it might delay the time I get my mix back. And it's like, yo, maybe I should keep that to myself and maybe my close friend. But you just seem like you've hit a point where you're authentic with it. It's like, yo, I don't care who knows.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's perfect. And I'm so glad you said that because I literally took one of those mental health hiatuses just recently. There's a lot of pressure as more and more projects are coming in. Your boy, I'm not afraid of anything, I'd say. But most people, while they're afraid to fail, for me, the fear of success is very real for me. It does bring me anxiety. Like when I actually land a client and they sign a proposal, some people like they chill like, oh, I'll finally be able to pay that bill. Me, nah. It's like my anxiety actually ramps up because the imposter syndrome starts to whisper in the back of my head, like, are you really worthy of this multi-$1,000 that you just got as a down payment? Does this person know that your studio is in your garage, and does that even matter? So there's all this stuff that goes on. And man, I reached out to my executive facilitator. I was like, look, I'm gonna need some time. And I spoke to my team and I said, I need a couple of days. And my facilitator was like, no, just take 72 hours. I'm locking everything up. And so she literally, all my meetings that were for today, she put them to tomorrow. She was like, no, you're gonna preserve your mental health. So that was something that's really huge, is being brave about being self-aware. First and foremost is key. But also being brave enough to say, you know what, my mental health is most important. A gentleman by the name of Mario Armstrong, you may be familiar with him. He's a technologist. He's a sneakerhead. He's just an amazing motivational speaker. And he's become a good friend of mine recently. He speaks about authenticity and how in this new age of this new normal, quote unquote, authenticity is a new currency. And I was blown away by that concept because I think you and I might have even talked about this briefly. When it comes to Zoom and this whole remote thing, people really want to know, who am I really hiring? Now that this pandemic thing has forced everybody into their homes and everybody home is their castle. Like
Mhm.
right now, I might look, the top looks good, but I'm like wearing PJs on the bottom, you know, like these
Right,
comfy
right.
pants, with like a deer print on it. I don't know why my wife got me this, but having said that, it's been such a mind hack where people are now that the gatekeepers are all home, and now that the playing field is leveled, it's all about who are you.
Mhm.
So it's not so much the person's gone to Terrence's website. They see all the accolades. They see what you've done.
Right, right,
But
right.
when you hit start Zoom, they want to know like who is Terrence really?
Right.
And I think this age is a perfect opportunity for the introverts, the recluses like myself,
Mhm.
to find out about themselves, to find that third gear of confidence that they might not have had before, where before there was the whole 60-second elevator pitch. That's dead right now.
Right, right.
Nobody's rushing you for anything. As a matter of fact, reach out to that CEO, reach out to that hiring manager, because I promise you they're home and they're not really looking at your resume. I mean, they're glancing at it to see if you've qualified for the basic things, but really, bro, like it's really about transparency now. People want to know like who are you really, and when you lead with that, it's very very difficult to fail in this age of whatever we're going through right now.
No, that's good advice, man. For real. Um, I also wanted to. I thought about this also because not everybody um goes through the mental health issues as hard as some,
Yes.
but you might know someone. And how would you advise a sibling or a spouse to help? You know, if they see somebody struggling, because a lot of times I might see somebody struggling, it's like, yo, I can't say anything. Like I might throw them over the deep end, or I don't know what to say. How do I help? I don't know if you've got insight into that or how people have helped you.
I think one of the things is we have to get over the fear of becoming unpopular. You have to be willing to lose that friend,
Mm.
for the sake of saving their life. You have to be willing to, I don't want to say violate their privacy, but if you see somebody going over a precipice, obviously you're going to pull them back.
Right.
And because mental health is so esoteric, it's this sort of conceptualized thing where we can't really tangibly see it. But when you see signs, when you see a person sort of um, withdrawing into themselves, and this person is usually an extroverted, open, outspoken person, that's the perfect time to call for some sort of intervention, whatever, and within the circle of friends. That's usually one of the best things to do. And there are hotlines, there are mental health support centers around the world. I don't know any of those numbers offhand, but if you just Google them, you'll find them.
Yeah.
There are ways, and even some of these centers will actually advise you on how to approach said individual.
Mm.
Let's say the mental health signs they're showing are more medicinal or clinical, right? There are specific steps. There are ways to approach somebody who may be bipolar and might not know it,
Mhm.
right? Or somebody who may be on the beginning stages of paranoid schizophrenia. And
Mhm.
mind you, I'm just talking because of some experience of some of these being some of my family members. But I know for me, it's always about being willing to lose that person's friendship. I've always said this, like, I want you to tell me my breath stinks to my face. I want you to tell me that, and I might hate you for 5 minutes, but I love you for the rest of my life because I know that you're going to tell me the real. Like you're going to be real with me, even though it hurts.
Mhm.
Right? Sometimes you got to pull the band-aid off. Sometimes you just have to. And it's really about a judgment call. You have to sort of investigate whether you're a believer like you and I are, T, and you
Mhm.
sort of go into the spirit realm and you pray and you intercede on this person's behalf, or if you're like everyone else and you just sense a vibe, you know, reach out. That person might actually want somebody to talk to them. That person might actually be literally crying out for help and not know how to say it. And denial is going to be the first thing because it's like a defense mechanism, right? Like, nah, I'm not crazy. I just want you to know I'm not crazy.
Right, right.
But does crazy and I need help, are they synonymous? And why should they be? Why should they even be in the same sentence?
Right, right.
If I need help and it just so happens that I end up being crazy, that's that's neither here nor there. I think it's more important to give the help of whatever way that individual or individuals need it
Mm-hmm.
at the time. Again, being willing to, I don't want to say sever the relationship, but be willing to damage the relationship for the sake of that person's mental health. Because I've said this on other platforms. Once you lose your natural mind, that's it. I mean, you can lose a limb. People have proven it. They've lost limbs and they continue to live normal lives. Some of them are athletes,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
high performing athletes at that. Others have lost their hair and just other things. But once you lose your mind, the center of everything, and if you believe in God, that's your direct connection to
Mm-hmm.
God. That's it. It's a wrap.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Being willing to go through tough times in a relationship. I'll say it that way because I wasn't even thinking as deep, and it could get as deep as, bipolar or, wanting to commit suicide. But it's just, even especially through what we just went through, people just aren't okay, or people are now angry. I'm just angry. And every little thing is ticking them off. And it's just like, yo, where's my boy at? Or where's my sis at? Like, you weren't like this before. And then it's like, you know what? You going through your thing, everybody going through their thing, and you kind of back off and give them an excuse and you don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And then if something does happen, and they could want somebody to reach out to them, but because of their initial reaction is like, yo, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I always been good. You all right. Like, I'm good. Go ahead, go home, whatever. And they're not good. And
Right.
it's just like, all right, I reached out. Okay. And because it felt uncomfortable. And I think that's the line, or where we have to go past the uncomfortability.
Yeah, man, that's so key. Like, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. I mean, I say it coming from an adolescence that was just pure athleticism, right? Like, I've been an athlete most of my young life, so I'm very well aware of what discomfort is, whether it was the actual basketball drills or the weight room afterwards.
Mm.
And boy, God forbid you lost the game the day before, and the trainer's like, "Okay, y'all are mine now. Yeah, I saw y'all not getting back on defense. All right, let's get some suicides in. Let's get some
Oh,
extra reps. All this the punishment. But when you're committed to excellence, the physical, obviously also the mental excellence of training up your body, you learn to deal with the discomfort. And I think once you establish relationships with people that you love, having uncomfortable discussions becomes necessary. I'll give you a quick story. My wife and I, in the very beginning of our relationship, I remember having conversations. And if you know people enough, especially in the love arena, you can always tell when an argument is literally either around the corner or knocking at the door, right?
yes.
And I would always notice that in the beginning, back when we were engaged for a very short time, my wife and I. But during our engagement, she would literally, either figuratively or literally, run away. And I would run after her, like, yo, what are you doing? And when we talked about it, she expressed her fear of me judging her or me yelling at her or me raising my hand to her because of past experiences that she had.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to pull her aside and say, babe, I don't hate you. I love you. I just hate what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was able to make that connection for her, that to this day, we don't even call it arguments. We call it riveting discussions. Right? And we actually look forward to it because you can't fight somebody that's not willing to get in the ring with you. One of the best places to settle differences is in a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it across some of these like inner cities where you have these older youths who would bring out boxing gloves and be like, nah, ain't gonna be no gunslinging. Y'all two gonna duke it out right here, right now
Mm-hmm.
in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna hug it out, and then it's gonna be dead. It's gonna squash it.
Right.
And that for me was one of the things that I highlighted in my own life. So making the separation between who a person is and what they do helps me to have that uncomfortable conversation if necessary, and vice versa.
Right, right.
When they approach me, it's like, yo, G, man, like, what's going on with you? Or, yo, G, you said something that really hurt me. I have to be in a place of being willing to separate knowing who I am and knowing that what I did and who I am are two different things, and they're not one and the same.
Mhm.
Once you can make that separation, that leads to better conversations, obviously better mental health scenarios for both parties involved. Because now you have somebody who is potentially hurt by something you said, or maybe they see a pattern of behavior in you that concerns them. They're more willing to pull you aside because you guys have gotten past that whole hurt feelings thing. And even with hurt feelings, you have to trust that the person who's doing the hurting, quote unquote,
Right.
best interests at heart. They love you. They care about you. And it's not always fun. It's not easy. Sometimes their tempers will flare. Sometimes the person will walk away.
Mhm.
But I promise you, if the person doesn't, come right back, there might be a phone call the next day, say, yo, man, my bad. I was out of line. I just didn't expect that. I didn't expect you to come at me that way. So it's no, it's real. It's going to be dirty. Mental health is not a ABC after school special all the time. It's not
Right,
always
right.
a clean break of like, oh, you really hurt my feelings. Or like, oh, I really see you sitting off and sad. Let's go talk. And then you hear the corny piano music playing. Sometimes it's cussing, it's yelling, it's screaming, it's not talking to somebody for weeks. I know people who've gone years not talking to people, and then God forbid somebody passes away, and now they're the loudest one in the funeral home, crying their eyes out
Yeah.
because they were not willing to have that uncomfortable conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now I wanna touch on one last thing. That again you said 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'm hitting this one. You said, you said too much positive reinforcement can be bad for your mental health. And I think I know what you're talking about because I think I went through the same thing, but
Yeah.
I want you to elaborate on that.
Oh, absolutely, man. There's so many ways you can go out with this, but there's actually one particular thing. Yes, men. It's almost like what social media has sort of created and crafted. It
Mhm.
started off with the blue and white thumbs up from
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
the like.
Yep.
And I remember the first time I literally blew up my Facebook platform. Like I didn't inactivate it. I deleted it like completely. This was many years ago because that was the main platform that I was showcasing my music, who I was working with. And I felt like I was just getting all these likes. Like nobody was giving me constructive criticism. I mean, your friends and your fan base, your people they're always going to love you, but very few people were pulling me aside like, yo, that last little phrase you did was kind of whack. Here's how I would have done it. Very few people were doing that.
Mhm.
And bro, it was actually causing me mental distress because I felt like I was like, well, now that I'm taking this thing seriously, this is around early 2000s, around a few times that you came to SAE to record drums for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was around that time where I was like, yo, I need to really separate myself because nobody's giving me the real. I mean, I know I'm nice, but I can't be that nice, right? Like, I know I'm good, but I can't be that good. There has to be some way that I can grow, and nobody's telling me anything. So I found myself shrinking back from the oh, Greg, that was an amazing performance at church or whatever. Oh, I love what you did this. Sometimes I would actually challenge those people like, well, what didn't you like? And then I'd get they'd kind of, stand back. But the few people that gave me the feedback, and it's all about feedback. That's really what it is. You want to have the positive and the negative, or better yet, the positive and what needs to improve, right? And I find that for me, I just think it's okay. Let's think about children for a second. I think it's probably the best way to explain this.
Mm-hmm.
If my son is doing great, but then my son, and I'm giving him kudos for that. And obviously, if my son's doing bad, I'm not going to say good job, right? But too much positive reinforcement is going to give my son a very jaded, very superficial, very fake, false view of the world. because I'm basically telling him it's sunshine and rainbows. Everything is great. Everything is fine. You're doing wonderful. And I'm not taking the time to say, you know what? Come, let's talk about that last thing you did. This is not I'm not jumping on you, but here's what I would have done to do it better. Let's talk about it. Let's break it down. It's like watching the tape after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like teams that were really serious about going to the next level, they watch tape.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the great masters of the game, Kobe, Michael, I can go on a conundrum of names.
Mm-hmm.
Watch tape. It was important for them to see not just what they did right, but what they did wrong and how they can correct it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, positive reinforcement, while it is necessary, and I know this because if you know love languages, my love language is words of affirmation. So I'm really big on that. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a point in my life, and I can be real transparent here. There was a point in my life where I was overly seeking words of affirmation. And it became a damper to me because when I didn't get words of affirmation, my performance would suffer.
Mm.
This would be in my marriage, with my children, with my work. And I had to figure out how to shift it so that I was the one affirming myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was the one saying, you know what? It's God, me, then everybody else. And that was not an easy transition, T. That was one of the hardest, like, self-taught lessons. I'm a self-taught musician. I'm a self-taught most of the things that I've done, but that was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn by myself, for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's how to make sure that the words of affirmation that I seek, that it wasn't the primary, like I wasn't always leading with that. You know how they say you wear your heart on your sleeve? Like
Right.
I was the poster child for that, bro. And when I made that adjustment is when it became easier, because the worst thing that I did initially, and I can again say this transparently, was in a transparent fashion, was I overdid it with the words of affirmation, where not only did I oversought it, but I couldn't get on without it.
Mm.
And it got to the point where I had to step back and say, you know what, is like, what am I really searching for? And then it brought me back to the connection with my dad and all of that stuff. And then all of that came back up. And then I was like, okay, I realized, I see it now. And that's when I made the shift and I realized, like, you know what? Don't cut it cold turkey, because there are other people out there like me who had that issue with words of affirmation. And then, because again, then you start to feel like a burden. And people's like, man, why do you always need to have like a boost of confidence? Why can't you just be self-confident? You know, you withdraw. That's fine. Then I won't get nothing from nobody.
Right. Yeah.
And I hurt myself doing that because I still need it. It's a part of who I am, my genetic, the way I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing exposes that like a marriage, brother. Nothing. Nothing.
Yes, sir.
And when that was exposed and my wife brought it to my attention, it became easier. She taught me how to be self-confident. The most self-confident person I've met in my life is my wife. I've never met anybody that confident, because she didn't have the self-esteem issues that I had when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
With her, she went to magnet school, or, you know, she had family members who were like, oh, she's so smart and she's so intelligent, super encouraging. And not that I didn't have that, but I didn't know how to receive it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, long story short, I would just say it's a fine balance. You have to know how to encourage yourself. Like they said, like David said, right? You know, encourage yourself or whatever. You have to know how to, and I digress. I don't want to say you have to know how to, because that comes across wrong. You have to develop learning how to encourage yourself, being self-confident, being self-aware, being self-assured, and understanding what that truly means. And for those of us who are believers, who might take this as a form of being sacrilegious, I give glory to God as a given. So when I say self-reliant, I'm saying that from the position that I've already given glory and honor to God when you didn't see me do it. So
right.
That's a different conversation. But that's how I would answer that. I would say it's important to really know who you are, know where you stand, and like they said, know thyself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get to know yourself. You know, I'm not saying take yourself out on a date. You might have to do that. Some people think it's cool, and I think it's important. Self-care, another thing. For me, grooming is, last time I was looking like a Grizzly Adams, but I knew we were gonna do this time. I was like, nah, I gotta look sharp, because how I see myself, especially as men, for mental health, it's a huge thing. Getting a haircut.
Hmm.
If you're married, making sure you shower,
If
multiple
you're not
times
married,
a day.
making sure you shower.
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you for that specification.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think one of the keys, one of the things that stuck out is authenticity. Um, you need to be, and you touched on it, you need to be authentic with yourself. Once you start to understand who you are, who your weakness, what your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and you don't run from it. You don't try and go, no, I'm not weak in that area. If you are, you are. And if you're strong in another area, you are. I'll
Yeah.
also say seeking out authentic positive reinforcement, because
Yeah.
like I kind of alluded to, I had an issue with it also, too much positive reinforcement, but it hit me different. It was just like whatever I did, they were just like, yo, T, you're amazing. Like, you're an amazing drummer. And I'm like, okay, I'm good, but you guys need to get out more, because there's other drummers that like drum circles around me. No,
Right.
no, listen, for me, you're my favorite. And I had to learn how to receive it. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then, I might need to do something with my company and I build a little website. No, and it's just a placeholder. Yo, you did that. You're amazing. Yo, you produced that. Yo, you're amazing. I sang on a track. Yo, you can sing. You're amazing. And it's like, okay, I can't listen to you anymore. Whatever I do is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yo, this is great. And when you found yourself surrounded by a bunch of people that go around going, yo, T, you're amazing. It's like, yo, maybe I need a different circle, or I need to put some different people in this circle and go, now that was good. Here's how you could do it better. No, that was nice on this level. If you want to go to the next level, here's what you want to do. And you need those people.
Yeah. I have, as you can see, I'm wearing my little Black Panther.
Yes, sir.
I have a joke among, Cliff, our boy Cliff.
Definitely.
We talk all the time, and we have this saying, vibranium sharpens vibranium. And that's pretty much to say iron sharpens iron, because it's like when you have iron, I think could be destroyed, but I love vibranium because technically it's indestructible substance. And I love to use it as a metaphor, because I think when you focus on your circle, you want people that are going to make you better, people that are going to make you uncomfortable better. Uncomfortable better, meaning not just, oh, that was trash, and then walk away.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Like, those are just haters. Just
you don't need those people, right?
Closure. You probably have a hater in your midst. Here's what you do, right? But man, for those people who like, yo, that was trash, but here's how I would have done it, or here's how you should do it. You're gonna have those jokers in your life. There's some people that just, no matter what I do, they've known me since I was a kid. They changed my diapers. They're allowed to say things like that to me, because I know they're always gonna follow it up with, like, you know what, G, on the real, all jokes aside, here's what I saw. Here's where I think you could have done better. And some of the best people, Terrence, are not just the ones who tell you what they think you should do, are the ones who follow it up with a question. One of the best things you could do for me is ask me a question. So, for example, I did a mix and you think it's trash. And you say to me, yo, G, I thought that was trash, but here's what I would have done. And blah, 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 blah. What do you think about that, G? Because now what you're doing is you're putting the person in position to, it's usually a surprise. You give the person, you put the onus back on the person that says, I really care about you, despite the fact that I led with, I think it's trash. But I did that just to kind of let you know, like, don't take yourself too seriously. But when I ended it with a question, because I wanted you to stop and think that, wow, so you really want to hear my thoughts. You're not just giving me advice because you think you're my big brother, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I see what you did. I didn't really care for it too much. Here's my advice, but I do want to hear what you think about what I just said. And
Mm-hmm.
now what that does, again, these are mental health exercises that create stronger bonds. Like Cliff and I don't think I've ever had a beef or clash with Cliff ever. I think one time he said something, and we got off the phone. And because of prior relationships that I had destroyed, because I had just imagined stuff in my head and I made up this whole thing, and I didn't want that to happen with us, I called him back and said, "Yo, Cliff, you said such and such and such. Did you mean?" Immediately he apologized. He's like, "Oh," because he put himself in my shoes and empathized. Because this is what we're gonna talk about now, bro. The
Mm-hmm.
difference between sympathy and empathy. He empathized and said, "Yo, I see how you would take it that way. I was totally joking around, messing around. That's my bad. I didn't mean it that way."
Mm-hmm.
When you empathize with somebody, you're doing your absolute best to put yourself in their shoes. Now, while that's virtually impossible because there's no way that I can be Terrence, I can't be T Pharrell, and you can't be G,
Right.
I can still approach it from a human standpoint and say, I don't have any idea what it's like to live a day in Terrence Farrell's shoes. But from a human male perspective, he's married, he has a child, I'm married, I got 3. I can put myself in his shoes and and think about that. And just that base level of empathy is
Mm-hmm.
what can really tie some serious binds between people where they're like, yo, that's my dude for life, or that's my brother for life, or my sister for life.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the most I feel like my body filling up with endorphins just talking about that stuff. And that's the thing. These are some of the things that lead to better mental health. You don't have to be the extroverted person. You don't have to be the person that stands on the soapbox, because I know I'm not. I call myself an extrovert, I guess an extroverted introvert, because I've learned how to speak up and speak out. But at any given moment, I will disappear. Like I'm out.
Right.
That's me. But I think that would be, if I had like maybe a parting shot, would be to consider your mind, your mental construct, consider the mental construct of others, be
Mm-hmm.
willing to have those uncomfortable conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to lose a friend in order to save their life.
Right. No, it's key information. Key information. I want to just chime in real quick because got a friend. I think you know him too, Glenn Mosley.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that I want to say, delivery does matter. I mean, so as you work on your delivery also, because one of the things he's like, I would always send stuff to him and he's like, that's cool, but here's how I would have did it. Now, and in my head, I'm like, okay, so you think it's trash. He never called my stuff trash, but he's like, here's how I would have did it. I wouldn't have added so much reverb because, back in the day when you first start mixing and you realize reverb, it's like, we can reverb everything. Like, oh, this is dope. This is the best effect ever. And he was like, I probably wouldn't have put that much reverb on it. I probably would have did something like this, but he took the time and it always left me with, and he left me feeling like, but the decision is yours. That's not what I would have done. I would have did this. I would have changed that or changed the kick. I wouldn't have added so much. And so when I know he's got a list of 17 things he would have did different, I'm like, okay, you thought it was trash.
Yeah.
But he never said, I think that's trash, but here's what I would do. So delivery is important. And when you can figure that out, it's just, you open yourself to talk to more people and keep more people that maybe might not be mature enough to hear this is trash, but they don't hear the but. They don't hear anything after the but because you said trash.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It goes back to the who, what, when, where, and why. And for me, brother, it's always the how. I'm very much a how person. How you say something is really how I resonate, because I'm an empath. Again, spirit of I'm an empath. I've embraced that. If it took me years to realize again that I wasn't crazy, that when a person would come to be like, yo, what's up, man? As opposed to, yo, what's up, man? Like those are two different things. But that goes right over their head. But that first one was like kind of grimy. And like, like we say in Brooklyn, kind of gully. Like, yo, this person's trying to get at me.
Yeah.
Like this person, you want to see me outside? Because for me, that's the how is how it's always been for me. Even in my relationship with my wife, the how is a very important thing for me. It's not as important for her, but because we've been together almost 11 years now, you sort of intertwine with a person, you take on their characteristics and attributes. The how has suddenly become very important to her. And I had to catch myself the other day in a hypocritical moment because I realized I was not mincing my words at all.
Mm.
Like the guy who was all about the how, that guy, I don't know where he went. I blacked out. And she called me out on it. She was like, "How dare you, bro? Like, you really been preaching this whole how thing. And the first chance you get, when you finally fed up with me or whatever I said, you just completely lose all." She's like, you lost your natural mind. Like, I'm about to cut you. You know, she's half Puerto Rican. She kind of meant that. So I learned, I backed up real quick. I was like, yeah, babe, you know, just, I don't know, you know, charge it to my head, not my heart, you know? But yeah, the how is, delivery is huge, but I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
It's really how you look at things, how you look at yourself, how you talk to yourself. Another thing,
Yes.
self-talk.
Yeah.
Self-talk is the make or break of this whole conversation. Like, if you talk about being made in God's image and God being I am and God speaking the world into existence, right? We see people talking about speaking things into existence all the time, whether they're believers or not, tapping into the power of the supernatural, or as my father likes to say, moving the mighty arm of omnipotence, right? I find that it's super important to really, really be very careful what you say after you say I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain, you said it out of your mouth. Your ears registered it. It went directly to your brain, and your brain is going to send signals throughout your body to make sure everything about that, your aura, your presence, your physical, like your blood, your cells,
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
But I am great. I am powerful. I am at peace with God and man. I am calm.
Mm-hmm.
I am in a state of flow. Whatever it is, you really have to be very mindful of how you talk to yourself, especially what you don't say out loud, because it can be detrimental.
Right. And that's I've realized that's a practice thing, because I never wanted to, like, I am brave. I am and in my head, I'm like, I'm really not feeling brave right now. I'm not, and I don't want to sit here and lie because I know I'm not. But when you go, I need God right now. Like, I need to take a break. Like, you can say things and you have to practice or figure out what it is, like already pre-rehearse. When I'm feeling like this, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, I need to rely on God, or, you know what, I'm going to take a break, or I need to breathe, or I need to, you know, and rather than, I'm scared, man. I don't know if I could do it, because those, like you said, your brain will find ways to reinforce you are scared. Oh, check that out. See, you're scared of that too. You're scared. Your brain will go, yep, heard the message. I'm going to reinforce exactly what you said, because you must be speaking the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to the power of the words, like the power of the word, like when God spoke the world into existence. And if we're made in, somebody said it to me, my executive facilitator said this to me. So shout out to Trey when she hears this. She said, and she was like, yo, why are we messing around? Like, God spoke the world into existence, and we are made in his image. What does that tell you? Like, basically speak things as though they are. Now, again, you made a good point. If you're hurting, talking back to mental health, you know, there's some things that after you pray, you might need to dial a hotline and be like, yeah, I need to talk to one of your counselors. Let's be real about it, because there's just some things. Prayer is that initial connection to God, or whoever the other people listening, whether they believe in God or not, whatever you subscribe to. That's that first initial connection, whether you pray, whether you meditate, whatever it is. But being real with the situation, I'm so glad you said that, because like, if you're scared, you're scared.
Yeah.
Giving that fear power, that's something else. But acknowledging the fear, I have this, I'm gonna leave it to this. This is the last analogy, I promise. One of the analogies that I've told mentees now, I can't believe I have a mentees now. It's crazy. I think of anything that's negative or positive as a hotel, right? So think of the mental construct as a hotel. when you come to a hotel, when you're not a guest, you're not allowed past that information booth. You're not allowed past that place. You cannot get to the elevator bank. It's just not going to happen. Some hotels don't even let you into the business center because that's reserved for paying customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about negative feelings, and allow them to come in. You're feeling sad? Yeah, you can come in. You can sit in the lobby. You know, there's a vending machine over there. You can get some snacks, but you're not going upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going upstairs. Low self-esteem is not going upstairs. I hate myself is not going upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Suicidal thoughts is not going upstairs. As a matter of fact, if you're having suicidal thoughts, you got to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But those are the things, that's how I've helped people and even helped myself get through things where I just imagine the hotel and I imagine, okay, there's a point where the guest has certain privileges and they're very limited.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're feeling fear, when you're feeling anger, when you're feeling, invite them in because they're real feelings. But when you try to bar them and try to pretend that they don't exist, you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that for me is really the driving point home that's helped me over the years, not only get a grasp of my mental health, but also to realize it's a daily battle. People are going to come in and out of the hotel every day.
Yeah.
As long as the hotel's open, people are going to come in. People
Mm.
can come and have questions. Maybe the person's just visiting the town, depression, or the person is just like wants to ask questions, you know, self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to ask a question. The person would currently say, yes, such and such and such and such, but sorry, we can't allow you past this point. Okay, bye. And guess what? Depression now walks out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to me, that's not the end all be all. It's not a cure, obviously.
Right.
It helps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I like that. I like that analogy. Definitely, man. We could chat this up for for on and on. But I do like that analogy, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you, man.
Again, for those that again didn't watch 2 weeks ago, how can people follow you or see what you're doing now? Just throw those, and I'm gonna put the links in the thing, but just say it for them if they want to hop on right now.
Absolutely. So almost every social media platform I have is at Gregory Vilfranc. Just my first name, last name together. Instagram is at Gregory Vilfranc. And we also have the business page, Frank Village Studios, is at frankvillage.studios on Instagram. I don't really do Facebook like that anymore, but I am also on LinkedIn. So if you look up my name on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. Twitter, I'm at Gregory Vilfranc as well. No surprise there. And I'm not on TikTok just yet. I just, TikTok, Snapchat. That's not my thing. Maybe for a different generation. I don't hate them, but it's just not for me. But that's how you can find me. Oh, you can go to the website too. That's another great way. GregoryVilfranc.com or FrankVillageStudios.com. That's all one and the same. Fill out a quote request if you want to work with us. And yeah, that's all I got.
Dude, I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate you being transparent, us chopping it up, trying to just putting some handles on it, like I said. And again, our hope is something that we said here will inspire you to make the rest of your life the best part of your life.